Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to the almost famous sideshow known as Bigfoot Geography, where we travel the world in search of the phenomenon known as Bigfoot, and we try to learn a little bit along the way. And coming with me tonight is my co-host over here, Kazari Iwakura, and tonight we gotta take a little bit of a break, cause god dang, just dragging this houseboat through the Mojave Desert has sucked. Like, did we really pick this after Alaska? What did we do to ourselves?
Let's go to the Mojave, I said. It'll be fun, I said. We can make Fallout jokes, I said. Well, Good Springs is still a while away. Good grief.
These lizards are getting bigger.
Alright, tell you what, Jaster, let's dig a hole underneath the boat and sit in it and cool off, yeah?
It sounds good to me. I mean, we're going to get... I don't know about starting a fire quite yet. It's too damn hot. But we'll get it all sorted. I know we got some food left in the back whenever we made it in from, like, freaking Baja, so...
Yeah?
Anyways, down there a lot easier, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Anyways, the good news is we've got a lot to talk about, thankfully. The Mojave is a surprisingly populated area. I will admit, as a southern boy, I don't know a lot about the West. I know that Devin is from out there, and that's about it.
My little brother lives out there. We were talking to him a little bit before this, and he was giving us some fun.
Yeah,
fun insights.
He talked about hitting a tumbleweed and how it scared the shit out of him.
And how his thermostat blew up in the middle of fucking nowhere in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. I remember that phone call. That was great. But, so yes, the Mojave Desert. Why in the hell did we make a Bigfoot show about the desert? Certainly, there ain't no Bigfoot in the desert, I hear you say. However, there's quite a bit. Now, I will say, you can't get into the heart of the desert and expect Bigfoot out here. Hell, we ain't even near the heart of the desert. We can barely expect ourselves out here. But
yeah,
let's go ahead and break into it. So, the Mojave Desert, it's bigger than you might think. It actually includes Death Valley, and it stretches south into California and a good bit east into Nevada. And it actually... Here's a fun fact in geography I just learned today, actually. So the highest point in the United States is... or in the contiguous United States is, I think, not Mount McKinley. That's the one that just came in.
You didn't write this down?
No, I didn't. I just saw it like on the way when I was waking up this morning. I was like, okay, that's cool.
Here, all right. I believe you are looking for right Mount Whitney.
There you go, Whitney. I know it started with a W.
It has an elevation of 14,500 feet and is located on the boundary between California's Inyo and Tulare counties. And it's just a little northwest of America's lowest topographic point, Badwater Basin, which is in Death Valley National Park.
Yep, that's what I wanted to actually point out. So the highest point in the contiguous United States is less than 100 miles from the lowest point in the contiguous United States. And there is a whole lot of area in the United States. You know what I mean? For such a giant swath of land, for the highest and the lowest points to be so close to each other, I found really interesting. I also found out that California is actually unique in the fact that there are 5 different climate regions in it. It's like the state with the largest amount of different ecological areas in it.
Have you ever seen those maps that show like all the different parts of California they use to represent different parts of the world when they're filming stuff?
It gets wild. Like it blows my mind how like diverse the state actually is for being basically on the other side of a giant wall of nothing.
Yeah,
Like no, I know the plains are the plains, but let's be honest. I was poor and I was driving through Nebraska and I saw every 3 hours corn stalks and like maybe a house. Okay, and that was it.
like for instance, here I'm just putting this in the office, in the boat's notes rather, since we're not in the office. Uh, so here's an old Paramount map. Look at all the different spots of California that they use to represent different parts of the world for their films.
Jesus, that's so cool.
I know, it's awesome.
Wow. Like
Yes, Switzerland, Siberia, the Nile River, Africa,
Wyoming, Kentucky
Spain,
mountains, they're
Italy,
using this
Wales, Holland, England, South Africa, Spain. There's a lot of parts in California that you can go to
Egypt.
there's a reason the phrase California doubling exists.
I yeah, like holy hell. So there's quite a lot out here, and like for the people that are big into the Bigfoot thing, Northern California is the capital of Bigfootness, but we're at Southern California. We're trying to point out a little bit of fun shit here. So this area that we're predominantly looking at is going to be the south side of the Mojave Desert. So that is the area that seems to have the most ecological diversity, the most rainfall, and the most possible shelter from any hazardous conditions due to weather or nature. So let's break it down. In the south part of the Mojave Desert lands this place called San Bernadino National Forest, and that's going to be kind of the focus on episode 1 here. This is probably the most likely area in the entire Mojave like basin area where you're going to be able to find legitimate possible reports of Bigfoot activity. Not just because of possible rainfall and all that other kind of stuff and general cover from the desert, but also because it has a variety of different wildlife that we also think that for such a thing to even possibly exist out here, it needs to have the 3 basics, food, water, and shelter.
Hmm. And there's a surprisingly diverse amount of stuff it can feed on out here.
Yeah, we've got
I think the one that surprised us the most was the fact that there are bighorn sheep out there.
right. Like in the desert, like most I've ever seen them has been like up in the north or in the upper mountain areas, not necessarily near a desert. However, the Sierra Nevadas are basically the borderline, like the wall that keeps the desert at bay. So like it tends to also attract a lot more rainfall whenever like the storms from California end up smacking into it, so the desert doesn't end up getting that rainfall. So on the south side of the Sierra Nevadas is where you get a lot more ecology, but also this is where you start running into Bigfoot encounters.
Yeah.
So you get bighorn sheep, like we said. You got mountain lions. I wouldn't call it that we have roadrunners out there, or they got roadrunners out there, but who the hell
Meep, meep.
is trying to eat those things?
Coyotes.
Jackrabbits. True. So, like, jackrabbits are kind of an interesting topic. While they are something you can hunt out there, there is something known as rabbit starvation. It doesn't have enough minerals, vitamins, amino acids, all that good shit to actually keep you alive. So you can actually starve to death if you're just eating rabbits. It's kind of a fun fact about survival. However, one thing that did get me are the following 3 species, which I think would be easier food sources than others for a creature of this size. And that would be the desert burrow deer, which actually weirdly grows to a similar size as a white-tailed deer, which is ones local to my area. They can grow up to 150, 170 pounds.
Yeah, whitetail are no joke.
And like mule deer is the ones that are kind of like, oh wow, that's definitely a big deer, you know. But like
Mm-hmm.
the desert burro deer is also not a small deer. And then they've got the desert tortoise, and then Gila monsters. So the last two is more of ease of hunting. Like a tortoise is going to be a kind of an easy meal for anything able to open its shell up.
Mm-hmm.
Which if you got
Such as,
big old
I don't know,
hands,
perhaps an intelligent hominid that is known for strength and tool use.
so the other part of it's the Gila monster. That thing is not a small lizard, like, and people eat those things.
Mm-hmm.
So there are food sources. Uh, I will also say, like, there aren't a lot of known cave systems in the Mojave Desert outside of the Sierra Nevada mountain ranges. So that would also be a good potential area for shelter and a good potential place for water to collect in order
Mm-hmm.
for a stable water source. So I think in my theory is that the reason why we're getting these reports in this area is because this is one of the only areas geographically in the Mojave where the big three actually get met.
I also, not to mention, outside of the mountains, there's also the forests that border it as well. So if you're a Squatch, there's plenty of real estate for me to pick from. Now, it's worth noting, however, this is also a pretty populated area, and that's what really surprised me when we were doing our research for this. Because in my head, when I think of deserts, I just think nobody lives out there. Um,
No, it's more populated than you'd think. Route 66 it made its mark, I think, on the United States in that sense. You know, a lot more shit out here in this desert than a lot of other deserts in the world outside of
I
like I
was
guess.
I was very pleased. I was very tickled to know that the infamous Zizix Road is also out in the Mojave.
Really.
Yes,
Now
and
like
there's a research station out there for geology. It's cool.
okay, shoot.
Yeah, no. For those who don't know, Zizix Road is the reason it's famous is because it has a really weird name.
Not that there were like alien abductions or anything out there.
Nope, it is.
Just because it's
uh,
crazy. I like it.
yeah, it's a it's spelled ZZYZX. It used to be known as Soda Springs. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the reason why it is named Zizix is because a man named Curtis House Springer made up the name and gave it to the area, and he claimed it was the last word in the English language.
What
Um,
the fuck? He's probably not wrong, to be honest. He did. I mean, if he just made it for that intent purpose, I guess he's right.
and ironically, by making this word, um, it did become that.
Hey, set out to make something. He made it happen.
There used to be springs out there, and it's a whole thing.
I will say too. There's like two major. There's like the San Bernardino National Forest. There's also Joshua Tree National Park and Lake Mead in the area. Um, Another thing that I found interesting, it's like some 6 million annual visitors come to this part of the United States. So like not there's more inhabitants here than we thought, but there's also a lot more tourism
Yeah,
than
no. Well, for me, the tourism that I think of when I think of the Mojave Desert is good springs and the Pioneer Saloon.
I think I mean this is going to sound crazy, but like technically Las Vegas is in the Mojave. So I think that probably also has something to do. But like I know Joshua Tree National Park is huge.
Yes, yeah, no. Joshua
Like
Tree National Park. That's one I know about a lot. Just because, well, it's obviously got the famous Joshua trees there, which are a very unique plant. And they are federally protected, if I remember correctly.
yes, but like one thing we did write down is that they are a potential food source as well, because they do classify as a yucca root, which just means you'd have to peel them before you'd have to eat them. Like, things do eat those things. At least, like, around the world, we also eat yucca root. But mind, it takes a little bit of preparation because the bark's not good for you. However, the only other thing I think we picked up of note as far as vegetation would be creosote bushes, which is like one of those things you chew
because
for
like
oil.
not only do they have flowers that grow on them, but they also have fruits as well.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
But with that, I think we kind of got into the scene setting here. Let's go ahead and get into the Bigfoot.
Overall, I learned a lot about the Mojave Desert. And I've gained a little bit more appreciation for it. So the next time I play Fallout New Vegas, I'm gonna enjoy it a bit more.
I was thinking about doing that later myself. That's the hard part.
Right.
So, you want to get into the first one?
Yeah, so we didn't have any trouble finding Bigfoot reports for the Mojave Desert, which was a nice change of pace after the North Alaska research, where it felt like we were trying to draw water from a stone.
I was just surprised we were able to find stuff out there after a while. Like, holy cow.
Yeah, like the fact that we even found encounters for North Alaska at all was pretty astonishing. Now, it's worth noting that most of these sightings take place towards San Bernadino, whether it's in their national forest or in the mountains near it. We don't really have a lot of encounters from the desert proper, and the ones we do, we had enough of that we wanted to separate them into their own episode. So we're going to start with this one. This one, interestingly, was actually at both sources that me and Jaster usually go to.
Yes.
To pull from these.
You take it away. I got a call real quick. I'll let you know.
Okay. All right. So our first, that's a yawn. Our first report actually comes from a location called Camp to Quits, which is a Boy Scout camp, which is near Barton Flats in the San Bernardino National Forest. A group of Boy Scouts that had traveled out from Long Beach, California, to go camping.
All right, I'm back. Sorry.
So the Scouts go down to their site and they set up camp. And around 11 p.m. that evening, they begin hearing screams. According to the witness, the screams started out like a wolf howl, but ended like a man's scream. He noted it stopped the crickets from chirping. It was at that time the Scout Master came out of the tent to listen, and then they heard it again. They estimated it came roughly about a mile south of where they were camped. Everybody was pretty scared. They all went to bed about an hour later, and then an hour later after that, which they all went to bed at midnight, and then about at 1 a.m., the witness's friend woke him up and told him there was something moving in the bushes and trees next to their camp. Everybody woke up, and their friend Kenny got up and walked over to where the rustling was coming from. And then Kenny died. They killed Kenny. Oh, those bastards.
Never mind.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Kenny's good.
So Kenny shines his flashlight out into the bushes, and sure enough, there's the Sasquatch standing in the tree line, looking at everybody. Naturally, this group of Boy Scouts all started freaking out. According to the witness, the Sasquatch was about 6 to 7 feet tall, so this is your average Sasquatch for this region of the United States. It had brown hair all over except the face. It had a short neck and long arms going down the knees. Its eyes reflected the flashlight's beam like a rabbit's would. The eyes shone red. It turned, and with long steps, walked northeast from the area, then up a steep wooded hill and out of sight. One of the guys actually pissed his pants from fright. Now, one thing they do note is that camp staff told them that they had heard sightings around the campground area as well. So, very interesting encounter. This honestly sounds like the perfect kind of story to tell at the Scout Jamboree. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, I know. Like, could you just imagine, like, oh, we're going to camp. What are we going to find out there? And then, like, you're at the first freaking meeting and they're like, there's Bigfoots out there. Like, not great. Not what, I mean, it's what me and Kaz would want to have over there at our camp. But, like, I guess no one else was really down. Now, like, I think there's another interesting thing we kind of need to break into because this is going to become more apparent in our next episode. So, we do need to point out that the supposed eye shine of these individuals majority of the time is red. Okay, so like the other thing to note about that is that it's not uncommon for like known animals to reflect a red eye shine. It's just how their particular eyes reflect light back. Like our eyes, back in the 90s when you had those old flash cameras and stuff, if you have blue eyes, you have to like almost get red eye like treatment at the photo desk because like that light reflecting back will come back as a red eye shine every time. It happened like all the time in my like photos growing up as a kid. But also like owls, rabbits, like they said, they all have red eye shine. And supposedly the vast majority of accounts associated with Bigfoot also have this red eye shine.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side of this mountain range lies the subject of our next episode, where that's a little bit different. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a appetizer before the main course.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
eyeshine with Sasquatch kind of always fascinates me because it's very inconsistent.
yeah, like I hear yellow, I hear red.
Red is the one that always surprises me the most because I don't usually hear red eyes that often. Usually I hear like yellow or orange or something like that.
See, like, I almost feel like I hear about yellow and orange more on the West Coast. Like, I almost feel like, and like, I don't have any empirical evidence to kind of back up my claims here. No database where I've kind of separated it. That would be kind of cool. Like, actually separate by region what color eye shine.
That might be a cool project, yeah.
But I feel like I hear it more on the West Coast or in the South. I mean, not the South, like deep South. Like, I think the Southeast, the Midwest, I think I hear red more often. But, like, I think with the main West Coast ones, I think I hear yellow. But, like, it could be a species variation.
Maybe.
Like, there's all kinds of things. But also, the type of light that you use does dictate the kind of eye shine that you get.
This is
back.
very true. Yeah. I'm assuming this was your average, standard flashlight that, probably didn't even cost like $10, just kind of cheapo flashlight you take camping.
Yeah, with incandescent bulbs.
Yeah.
And like I think LEDs have a different reflection.
It had to be incandescent because this sighting was in 1975.
So I do think like, what you're using does tend to make a difference too.
So it said this guy was in the tree line, like right outside their camp. He was just standing there, man. It's not unusual for Squatches to go up to camps and observe them, and be like, "What the heck is going on here?" I know one behavior I hear about a lot is them playing with tarps.
Mm-hmm. I also think what I've come to understand is like the type of presentation a Bigfoot will give a human kind of dictates on their age a little bit. Like, I think this, like, standing out there clear as day, able to be seen, like, I think that's indicative of an adult, one that's more confident of itself. Like, it's like not a threat display, but just a statement of it's capable of doing.
Because the description of the encounter, it doesn't come off as a aggressive, like, get out of my territory kind of display. I really think Homeboy just wanted to see what all the noise was, because part of the reason I think it was drawn there is because these guys had been just chilling out around their campfire and, telling stories and singing and all that stuff. And at least according to a few squatchers that I've talked to and listened to in my time, That's actually one of the best ways to get Squatches to come on up. Is you don't go looking for them. You just let them come to you, and let their natural curiosity just kind of get the better of them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say, however, that I have also heard that that is an easy way to attract a Dogman. So make sure you're not in Dogman country before you try this technique. Because literally the very first episode of Dogman Encounter Chronicles has a story about two Squatchers almost getting ambushed by a pair of Dogmen um, while they were out doing this kind of thing.
Like that's the little side tangent though. Like,
Yeah, that is a side tangent. This is a
well,
Sasquatch episode.
I'll comment on it. Like, I think that's like most people would call squatchers crazy. If you're a Dogman researcher out there looking for one, I think you're crazy.
Genuinely, I think you are actually legit crazy. The only kind of field research I would even feel comfortable doing in Dogman territory is if I was in a secure shelter I know they couldn't get into.
I would
Like,
need 4 or 5 dudes with just as much gun as me. And I would
right?
need a lot. It's going to take a lot of gun to get me out there, okay?
Yep.
And there's like,
Yep.
and you best believe if we see one of them bitches, there ain't enough man on this planet to keep me from shooting that bastard. A lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah. I think, honestly, we're more likely to see a Dogman body before a Sasquatch body. Because, let me put it this way. There's no, what do we call them? Fluties?
there's no flute players out there for
Yeah,
Dogman.
yeah, there's no flute players out there for Hot Dogman going, no, they're just friends. They don't want to hurt us. Meanwhile, Dogman, the majority of encounters you hear about are them being pissed off and bluff charging people and trying to get into homes and
Oh, dude. And then, like, you gotta understand, too, it's like anybody that's out there with guns trying to hunt one of these things, or anybody looking upon these people while they're going into the woods, like, God damn, they're actual werewolf hunters. You know how crazy that sounds?
Right, yeah. So,
Like, holy shit. At least these guys are out here looking for a monkey. Like, I can at least,
yeah.
it's wild.
I think we've iterated it before, but we are pro kill here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, a body is just the best way to have solid proof that this is real. You bring it and you dump it in front of the Smithsonian and be like, here's your fucking Sasquatch.
Yes. Like,
it would be a modern scientific breakthrough. It would completely redefine everything we know about like man and primate. Like, and the dude, you would be crazy. It's like
it
the
would
DNA.
modernize our understanding of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like,
So.
I think we need to set aside an episode for, like, the ramifications of finding Bigfoot. Because, like,
absolutely.
I think there's some interesting things to bring up. I don't want to put on, like, just a standard episode.
Yeah.
Like, somebody's going to want to argue for equal human rights for these things if they find them. You know that, right? Like, like, you do know that.
I mean, listen, I'm fine with them getting federal protections after we have a body. Whatever, man. But I also think that if they are being problem animals, you should have the right to shoot them. So.
Hey, they have Bigfoot hunting season in some places. They have legit, like...
Really?
Like, legit, yeah. Like, certain counties have a Bigfoot hunting season.
That's impressive.
And now, I believe it's in, like, Northern California or Oregon or somewhere like that.
Now that you mentioned this, I need to know.
I gotta look it up.
Yeah, okay, so Oklahoma has a Bigfoot hunting season that was just introduced a few years ago.
Yeah, $25,000 reward for capture. Like, come on, y'all. I want the federal government to match that shit. Like, that would be fucking awesome. We'd find that motherfucker in a heartbeat.
There you go.
Drag him. Hey, I shot him in Oklahoma. He's like half rotted because I dragged him from fucking Kentucky. You know what I mean? Like, I want my money. You imagine that. But going into it, so this is kind of what you would consider, I would say, quintessential Bigfoot activity.
Yeah,
At least,
no, you get noises and then you see one. And then he fucks off. That's a very stereotypical Bigfoot encounter. Yeah.
now, like, what we got next, the other BFRO account that we thought was actually worth bringing in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. The Boy Scout one was the one we found on both of our sources. This was the one.
Yes. So this was on Bigfoot Encounters and on BFRO. We also looked through NWAC's or NAWAC's database, but they're a lot smaller of a group.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of more localized encounters than, say, the BFRO or Bigfoot Encounters, but they're mostly a southern group when it comes to their operation. However, this in San Bernardino County. This is probably one of my favorite stereotypes of what I like to call the goofy movie encounter. Okay? Alright, so this goes as follows. This is in the San Bernardino Mountains at the Barton Flats campground off of Highway 36, southwest of Big Bear Lake in California. Okay? Late October 1993.
So this is more or less, this is stone's throw away from where the other encounter happened.
Yes.
Like, just want to put that out there. So
Big Bear Lake comes up a good 4 or 5 times in the BFRO database, at least. I don't know about the BigfootEncounters.com, how populated it was on your side, but Big Bear Lake definitely seems to be a hotspot zone. So, this guy was he was sleeping in his van. His 2 buddies were sleeping in a tent about 15 feet away from the van. Right? This guy reported that he wasn't able to get to sleep because he kept on hearing things walking around outside the van. He's like, he could hear snoring coming from the direction of the tent, and when he peeked up out of the window, he couldn't see anything. So he started to get up, and then all of a sudden, the van started rocking back and forth like crazy, and he was thrown from side to side, and he yelled real loud. Suddenly, the shaking stopped, okay? His friends called from within the tent and asked what the problem was, and at that point I grabbed my flashlight and pulled the curtains covering the back window and shined the flashlight outside. A figure moved towards the left, and I could see it was walking upright like a man, but it had hair from head to toe. In a second I saw it walk past the front windshield and head into the forest. So he pulled open the side door and jumped out yelling for his friends to get up. It smelled really bad, like a cesspool, around the campsite, and he was badly shaken. We started a fire and talked about what had just happened, and he learned that something had been tossing pebbles on top of the tent. And like the guys that were sleeping in the tent had thought it was him, and then something had brushed up against the back side of the tent, but they also thought it was him. But after he told them about the van shaking, they swore it wasn't them, and we decided to pack up and head home early. And then later, he remembered seeing a pair of glowing yellowish eyes through the trees after we had first arrived, but they had disappeared almost immediately, and he thought it was just a deer or something to that effect. This was also another commonality between this account and the other account, is like, as soon as things started going down, they realized they ain't heard nothing. No crickets, no birds, no nothing. So, like I said, commonalities of big bad silence, like something bigger than the common wildlife's out there, and they shut up because they don't want to be a part of its menu. Then you've got pacing and all that outside the camp. You got rock throwing in the form of pebbles. But what makes this what I like to call a goofy movie encounter,
it's the van.
Shaking of the van, okay? I also hear this about RVs. I hear this more or less about any kind of semi-residential vehicle.
I think the most extreme one I ever heard is I remember hearing a story about a hunter that was staying in an old school bus on a hunting property, and that got rocked by a Squatch.
Like, just, dude, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Those things are fucking huge.
Yeah. So, then that one's always stuck with me.
But, like, you also hear about cabins way out in the woods, or mobile homes that almost feel like they're getting rocked off their foundations. Like, testing a structure seems to be a commonality amongst these things. Like, they might know there's something in it and trying to see if it spooks, or they're trying to see if something's in it. You know what I mean? But, like I say, in the scene of the Goofy movie, they end up getting into their car, and that's how they get away from the Bigfoot, but it ends up just sleeping on top of their car with them overnight. But it was in there shaking the shit, it was ramaging the campsite. What I find about that movie is how accurate it is to the majority of reports. It's not very Harry and the Hendersons. It's basically trying to steal your shit.
Yeah, there's a reason Jaster talks about this bit in the Goofy movie so much. Is it's surprisingly accurate. And someone on the production team must have had an encounter or something, because like,
or is at least more educated than most in the quote unquote normal person space about the subject.
yeah, especially given the time it was made in.
Yes. Like, I don't know why. Like, there was no real reason to have the fucking a Bigfoot in that movie. For
No,
real.
there
That
was
was
not.
hilarious.
Yeah.
So, that was the van shaking event. That was the end of what we wanted to bring from the BFRO side.
Mm-hmm. So the rest of these are from Bigfoot encounters, and I will say one of them does in fact mention Big Bear Lake. In fact,
Damn.
it is yeah, so um but the first one is actually in a location called Glen Helen. It is in San Bernardino County. The report says it is on the way to Palmdale and Edwards Air Force Base, and wouldn't you know it, Edwards Air Force Base is what we're going to talk about in our next episode regarding the Mojave. But I put this one here because it's outside that. So the witness says the landscape here was desert scrub brush in a large canyon. No structures anywhere nearby. They were about 10 or 12 miles away from I-15, and the closest city was Devore, population 150, 15 miles away. And this took place in May 1994. Witness was working as a medic at a dirt racetrack in Glen Helen. It was 2 a.m. on a spring night. He and 4 other medics were sitting on the bumper of an ambulance waiting for another unit to return so they could all go home. One of them was seeing a female medic on the other unit, and they were all waiting together and just venting, chilling out, maxing, relaxing on cool. At adjacent to where the parking area was a road construction staging yard full of graders, pipes, bulldozers, and big piles of sand and coarse gravel, which is interesting because, at least from security guards and such that I know that I've had to observe these sites and have cameras and such, Squatches like to wander through these a lot for some reason, and I don't know
Oh,
why.
construction.
Yeah.
I've also heard Dogman.
Yeah, Dogman will as well. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. This, like, I wouldn't say, oh, well, they do this because this, but it happens enough that it comes up quite a bit in these kind of stories. So, anyways,
Oh no, I got a theory if you want to hear it out real quick. I'll make it quick.
go ahead, fire it off. What's your hypothesis?
I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, like downtown Louisville, right? Like, you got construction going on. You can still hear the construction sounds and, like, all of that kind of crap for a good long while away in the middle of an urban environment, right? So, like, what do you think you would be able to hear out in basically the middle of nowhere and someone's doing construction sounds? You're going to be able to hear that shit for miles. And anything that's used to habitating the woods hears something like that it's not normally used to, it's probably going to want to try and check out what's going on.
That's a fair assessment,
Like, I would say that's probably something a human would do.
I don't,
if you
like,
doing it in the
I don't,
Amazon.
as always, I don't want to make any absolute claims like this is why, but that is a very fair hypothesis, and I prefer to use the word hypothesis whenever we're spitballing about Bigfoot thing, because we don't have anything to back it up. Otherwise, it'd be a theory.
Right. I also think that's why you get a lot of loggers getting activity.
Yo, that's so true. Log roads are hotbeds for Squatch activity. You're absolutely right.
I think the loud amount of noise out in the middle of goddamn nowhere attracts them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That one is a known. That one's a known fact. Like literally to the point where in areas where there are like lulls in logging activity, that's when the Squatch activity goes down.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, they're all sitting there. There's a so this construction yard was fenced in with chain link. And they had been sitting there for about 10 minutes when he heard what sounded like footsteps. Oh, he also mentions that these are the ones with the white strips of plastic woven in, so you can't see inside the fence.
Oh, yeah.
So he begins hearing footsteps. He says normally it wouldn't have meant anything, but they were miles away from, civilization in the high desert. Nobody would be passing through there. They were very heavy footfalls in the gravel just on the other side of the fence, 20 feet from him. He was silent, but eventually, in listening to it, he didn't say anything, but everybody eventually stopped and listened as well. And, this was a sound, he says, of a heavy biped strolling around in the construction area near the fence. And he does mean strolling. Somebody yelled out, "Hey, who are you?" And there was no response. There was a pause, and the footsteps continued. And he describes them as going heel, toe, crunch, crunch. So they started up the ambulance, pointing up the high beams and the spotlight towards the construction yard gate. The gate was unlocked, so they opened it. 3 people armed with tire irons went ahead, and they went about 30 feet into the yard and didn't see anything. And they decided to retreat because it was a very shadowy yard. They backed out and closed the gate. And after they did that, the sounds continued shortly after, but fainter from the far side of the yard. And then after that, they stuck around until the second unit showed, and then they turned off all their shit, locked the ambulances, and fucking left. So,
now,
and that's it for the encounter.
So they never really got an actual sight of this thing.
No.
And now, the other part of it...
But it was close to them, and they could hear it.
Mm-hmm.
20 feet, that's not very far away.
No.
Hell, they probably got within eyesight of it when they went into that yard.
Mm-hmm. At the very least, they were known to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't open a gate and 3 dudes come through the light without broadcasting their location to anything that might be on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, an all too common occurrence, too, is that, you would be surprised in the nation of guns how often people are out there. When you're on your standard job, you can't just be holding a firearm unless you're in Texas or some shit.
Right. I
mean, there's a bakery in Kentucky that they actually all have open carry firearms. And it's a bunch of, ex-veterans. So there's you walk into this bakery down there, and there's just a bunch of old dudes, fucking old world, guns on their hips, making pastries and shit. It's pretty wholesome.
That's pretty funny.
But most people, contrary to popular belief, most people in the United States having a firearm doesn't mean they carry it.
Yeah, it's true.
And
we own firearms at my house, but we all keep them locked up.
Yes. So 3 dudes with tire irons is better than most in a account that I normally hear, unless you're a hunter. Now, I don't think these dudes are stupid from backing off. You know what I mean? That's not a good situation. What are you gonna do? Beat it to death?
Yeah, exactly.
Not good. That's not great.
Listen, getting into a melee fight with Sasquatch is not a good idea unless you've got Soma with you.
The other thing, bro, is that could have been anything. What if it was a Dogman they also have a...
Dude, if that was a Dogman and they tried to get into a fight with it, oh man. But I also feel here's the thing. Dogmen are a lot more aggressive. And I feel it would have bluff charged them or chased them out of the yard or something if that was one. But that's just me.
I mean, I also get, There's also, I think, yeah, too. I think it's more than likely whatever it was just not wanting to deal with what they were doing. You know what I mean? Which is fair. Most animals are like that. You know, like they don't want to actually risk an engagement, and that burns precious calories. You know, things that we don't have to really worry about. So, what else you got? I know we got a couple other ones we want to burn through, right?
Yeah, we got two more. So this one is back in the San Bernardino National Forest, and this one takes place near Lake Arrowhead. So this takes place in April 1999, 10:30 in the morning. Um, so man and his wife are turkey hunting between the Boy Scout camp and Deep Creek near Lake Arrowhead. So hey, guess what? We have another story in the same region. It's
Yep.
April 26, 1999. A lot of turkeys, but they didn't bag one. They find a place to take a break and have something to eat, and then they took a nap. The witness was awakened from his nap. Hang on, let me try that again. The witness was awakened from his nap by a very loud thump, thump, thump. And he sits up, and his wife is looking in the direction the sound came from. He asked her if she heard something. She says she saw it. And she describes that she saw a hunter and he was running. So naturally, his first question is, how do you know it was a hunter? Was he wearing camo? And she said, no, he was covered in fur. And the only reason she said hunter is her reasoning was it moved on 2 feet like humans do, and it was running. She said it ran and hid behind a tree. She said that it ran and hid behind a tree, and but she didn't see it get away. And moved through really quickly, and she only saw about 2 or 3 strides from a side angle. Her description was it was taller than a man, thin, covered with fur, and ran on 2 legs like a human.
So, I do like there that they didn't report the sighting right away because they didn't really think Bigfoot were known to be in the area. And they only came forward after seeing 2 other Bigfoot track reports. Now, like, let's see here. I think this was what? I would say hunting and shit like that. If they see you before that you see them, I've seen plenty of reports where a hunter will be basically have spooked one, and more or less you have that 4 second encounter where you're looking at it, it's looking at you, and you're out there with a gun because you're hunting, and it's looking at you, and then it looks down at the gun, and then its expression kind of changes. I've heard that account a dozen times. So, like, if it has seen you and you've got a gun or something, where, like, they were saying that they were just resting and taking a nap and shit,
Yeah.
if it got the drop on you and it saw the gun, it's probably going to try and get away.
Yeah.
Like, most of the time. Like, but that's kind of going off of what I've realized more over and how similar times when they're looking at these things and they're looking at you and they realize you have a gun, they're getting a lot less brazen. Like it's weird. It's like they know what they are. Like a gun, which is kind of crazy to me. But at the same time, monkey populations in Africa, like once they realize that they're getting hunted, like they will also have an adverse reaction to firearms.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's like a wholly crazy kind of thing. But like, could you imagine, like your partner's like just falling asleep over there, and you're just kind of chilling. All of a sudden, you see that motherfucker just running away from you, and it's
Yeah.
like, what the?
That would
That'd be.
Yeah, that would catch my attention. Woof.
You're the one on guard duty.
Yep.
And that's a Bigfoot. What the fuck? Oh my goodness. But like, a lot of people tend to hear, like, when they see the thing or when they make the sighting, you hear them say like, "Oh, I thought it was a hunter." But then they're like, "But it was covered in fur." That's like a weird way to call it. You know what I mean? Like, it was a dude in a fursuit. Like, he had a big old shaggy furry coat on. I've heard that all those kind of things. You know what I mean? And what I do think what it is most of the time is people see, if they see something running on two legs away from them, but it's covered in fur and it doesn't look very human, they'll hold on to the fact that it had two legs on it and it was running away, so it must have been human. Must have been a dude. Like a hunter or something. You know what I mean? That's how they try to rationalize it in the beginning. Now, what we got next, Kaz? You want me to...
Go ahead. Yeah.
Alright, so we're going back to Big Bear Lake.
Yep.
Okay? So, this took place February 1986 at 1:30 a.m. off of Highway 19, San Bernardino County. So we were in Big Bear, and we were up there for a skiing trip. We arrived late Friday night on the weekend of February 15th. Started to snow after we got there, and being from the city, we went outside to go and play in the snow. And there were 5 of us, 2 friends of mine and 2 brothers. We were throwing snowballs and having fun when somebody noticed that there was, quote-unquote, somebody watching us. On the road, there was a person or something standing there quietly. Looked like a tall man in thick winter-type clothes, and it was dark, so it was all black against the snow on the road. But it was heavy-looking. It was at least 6 feet tall, maybe taller, and it was heavy-looking and all one color. At this point, none of us were playing anymore, and we started to get scared. And we were frozen looking at the thing, and I yelled, "Hey, who's standing there?" or something like that. I didn't get any response at all. Then I yelled, "If you're human, say something." And still no response. So then we got really scared. We continued to stand there for a split second, and then we took off back to our cottage. And you can call me if you want for more details. I could probably tell the story better than I can type it. Now, let's see here. They were saying they were going up to the cabin for a skiing trip and everything. Like, I would just... What's so scary about that encounter is that, like, that could very easily just be a fucking serial killer and you were about to be the plot for the next horror movie. Like, if you just seen a dude just standing there staring at y'all and you're trying to talk to him and he's not saying anything. Like I said, I'd be thinking I'd be in the next freaking axe murderer horror flick. Now, like, what kind of gets me about it is that even though there's not a lot of description about this encounter about this person because of how dark it was outside, like they said it's like 1:30 in the morning when they're out there like having their snowball fight. I'm not really seeing like, oh, it had hair on it or anything like that. Like, it was over 6 feet tall is probably the biggest denominator that it was something strange.
Yeah.
And like how big it was. But like, I would say, reasonably speaking, there's still room for it being a dude. Either way, I mean, hopefully it was a Bigfoot, not a dude, because then it's like, why is there just a dude watching y'all outside of your cabin having a snowball fight in the middle of the fucking woods? Like, I'd be calling the cops. I'd rather it be a Bigfoot than a freaking... Then what else it could have been? Alright. So, with that, I think that wraps up all of our encounters.
Yeah, pretty much.
Alright. So, like we said, we're going to go ahead and hold off until round 2, where we're going to talk about one of the cooler like sets of Bigfoot sightings that we've come across, and it's Edwards Air Force Base. Lies on the other side of the Sierra Nevada mountains than the area we just covered today. But like I said, we're going to save that for our next episode. If y'all guys made it to the end here, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Thank y'all for listening, and y'all have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.